Experience the future of packaging and processing up close and in action. Explore groundbreaking innovations, engage with hands-on solutions, and connect with the experts transforming the industry. See how these advancements can revolutionize your products, production lines, and business. It all starts here. Don't miss out. Register today at packexpolasvegas.com/unpackedpod. You're listening to Unpacked with PMMI, where we share the latest packaging and processing industry insights, research, and innovations to help you advance your business. Hi, and welcome to Unpacked with PMMI. I'm your host, Sean Riley. In this episode, we welcome back frequent podcast guest Rebecca Marquez. She returns to discuss some tips and insights on how manufacturing can manage its current workforce crisis. From smarter ongoing operator training and AI-driven insights to intuitive machine design and stronger collaboration with OEMs, we explore practical strategies that can prepare the industry for the next 5 years. Plus, Rebecca shares how PACK EXPO Las Vegas offers the tools and partnerships to turn these strategies into action. Let's have a listen. So with all the fancy introductions out of the way, welcome to the podcast, Rebecca.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is always ours. You've become a regular guest here on our little show. So we've covered workforce a lot. We talk about it all the time now. It's a crisis, particularly in manufacturing. I don't want to specify a number, but I know it's well over 1 million of unfilled jobs that are out there. There's a lot. And we touch on that a bit. So I want to take it from a different angle and see where you see things that the industry can do differently to address these workforce gaps in the next 5 years looking forward, because we've been hearing about these problems for 5, 10 years, but what can we do to fix them in this short window of the next 5 years?
I think one thing that I've been hearing constantly, and I think maybe you've been hearing it too, is that we need to rethink training of operators. Have you been hearing that as well?
Yeah, a lot of talk about visual and video.
Exactly. What I hear from end users quite a bit is that we just need to prioritize better training support. We need to think about training as more long-term beyond just installation. It can't just be like 3 days, 1 week of training, and then you never get any training beyond that. We're also hearing a lot about, you mentioned videos, like embedding short videos right onto machinery, or just embedding different things onto machinery, like multilingual guides, interactive lessons, and just putting them right on the machinery or right on the HMI. Another thing that we've heard that I think is really interesting is a lot of times when you have training at installation, it's an SME that performs the training. It's not necessarily someone who specializes in training.
Right.
And so I don't know if you've heard this, but a lot of times the SME will be really familiar with the machinery that's being installed, and they know all of the ins and outs, the quirks, the shortcuts, all of that. And they're not necessarily as thorough in training new operators.
Yeah, I could see that.
And so really what some end users are looking for is to have not just engineers, but real trainers, real operators that know how the machine operates or how it should be operated to conduct the training at installation and even continuing training, because SMEs are not always the best choice. So that's what people are looking for. That's what I've been hearing from end users.
Yeah, it makes sense. There's also a problem retaining workers. It would make sense that you would continue to train them so that they don't feel like they don't know what they're doing, which is probably happening in some cases where machinery is updating so fast that someone who might have been an operator was well trained previously, but as the machinery has evolved, they need someone to keep them up to speed so that they can evolve with it.
Exactly. And that's why people are looking for continuity in training.
Yeah.
I want to also mention customized training. It's not one size fits all. Companies are different. Nope. Operators are different. Everyone learns in a different way. And so even regionally, there are differences. So customized training is a good approach. And it doesn't seem to be really in existence right now. And so I have also heard that from end users. That would be great to have that available to them.
So like everything else to do with relationship, there has to be a collaboration throughout not just the machine process, but now the training after the machine gets into the plant.
Absolutely.
Okay. What kind of skills do you think are going to be most in demand or are going to be the things that are going to be necessary in order to keep pace as a workforce in packaging and processing through, say, 2030?
100% technical proficiency.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And I know you've heard that and you've had guests that are
Mm-hmm.
talking about that's going to be absolutely look for in the future. Skills in automation systems, troubleshooting, data interpretation, and cross-functional operations. Those are all going to dominate the demand for workforces in the future, in the next few years. Operators are going to have to know how to read digital diagnostics. They're going to have to understand AI-driven insights.
Sure.
All of that stuff they're going to have to know. Another thing is informal knowledge. And that's just training that you get or knowledge that you get over time. Familiarity, I guess you could just call it.
Yeah.
But that kind of knowledge is really highly valued. And that actually just comes from retention, people working with something for a while. So retention is really important. That's going to be important as well. But companies are going to be looking for those kinds of skills, technical skills. Another thing that's really important that we've been hearing is peer coaching and mentoring, because there's going to be a lot of collaboration in the future too. Mm-hmm. And so I think that companies are going to look for those kinds of skills in some of their operators as well, because they want to embed those skills in daily work.
Very good. I like that, which makes sense with the turnover and the different workforce that's coming in, that there would be some mentorship, which again, you're going to look for from a retention standpoint as well. So you touched on a bunch of them, but what would you say is the technology or innovation that's come about recently that's had the most impact on operations and affecting the workforce?
So far, it's the ones that we've talked about. It's on-screen instructions, video, like platforms that contain video content or simulators, things like that. There are other things that take into account low-skilled workforces that have been very impactful, like color-coded parts, flashing alarms, checklists, things like that can help reduce errors. But I think the big thing really is just visuals, video, simulators, things like that are easily accessible to operators, either on the HMI, on the machine itself, just easy for the operator to gain access to and get an answer quickly. One of the interviews that I conducted said that one of the changes she's seeing is we live in the TikTok generation.
Sure do.
And we are conditioned to get an answer immediately within 5 seconds or whatever it is. So a manual is not necessarily going to cut it anymore. Even going to YouTube these days might take too long. Mm-hmm. So something that's really quick and easily accessible is going to be the wave of the future for sure. And what's out there already has had huge impact.
Where do you see AI and machine learning kind of making the biggest difference in operations, where it's going to help out the workforce?
I think the biggest differences that it's making are in predictive maintenance for sure. But there are other places where it's been really beneficial. One is reducing downtime, certainly. Yep. Also, AI is being used to find recurring faults in machinery, and it can find them in real time, and it can target fixes in machinery. And that's another way it's being used. Mostly, I think so far, it's predictive maintenance, but there are other ways that it is slowly creeping into our operations. Another thing that I've heard is that it's being used to guide operators in real time. We get a lot of questions about reports that we've done on AI, and we're getting there. It's not hugely adopted yet, but we're getting there. We talked about customized training. That's another way that AI could be used. Not so much yet, maybe a little bit of usage or a little bit of experimentation, but it can actually learn from operator usage.
That sounds like that would be a huge win and a huge help for some of the things you were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
Awesome. I like that a lot. That's exciting. And speaking of exciting, what excites you the most about the future of manufacturing and its role in workforce development?
There's a couple of things that I think are really exciting. I love anything interactive.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot going on for like interactive training, which I think is really cool. A while, AR and VR was all the rage. Then it calmed down a little bit, but we're still seeing AR and VR support, which I'm also really excited about. I like self-guided learning, not as excited about that, but let's see what happens with it. Let's see what format it takes.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on it.
It could be really cool. I'm hearing people talk about it, but let's see what happens with it. And then also just building machines or creating an HMI that is as intuitive as a smartphone. Like an operator from any walk of life can pick that thing up, and it is so intuitive. They will be able to operate that equipment in no time. And that's really exciting.
Yeah, I've heard that from the aspect of an iPhone. Who taught you how to use this? And basically everybody knows how to use it. We've all been using them for years. And if you can incorporate that onto a machine or onto an operation, the entire line like that, then basically you're having something that anybody can work on.
With all the turnover, and hopefully that will slow down someday. We don't really see it slowing down anytime soon. It's going to continue to be an issue for a while. But yeah, we're going to need equipment like that. We're going to need platforms like that. We're going to need HMIs like that anyone can pick up and just intuitively know how to use them to operate machinery. It can be done. Like you said, an iPhone, nobody taught you how to use it. People just know how to use it. And it's easy to figure out if they don't know right away. I find that really exciting because HMIs right now, some of them are very complicated, and it doesn't need to be that way. We actually conducted a meeting not too long ago, and we were talking about training. And one of the things that our meeting audience talked about in an interactive session, as far as training, they talked about including training tips or finding training information on the HMI. The whole audience voted on this, and they thought that would be the most useful thing. We know this can be done. We know it's a need. So I think this can happen, and I think it's going to be really cool when it does happen.
Very cool. We've hit on a bunch of topics, but we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on PACK EXPO Las Vegas, which is obviously coming up. How can people take advantage of a show like PACK EXPO Las Vegas to address things like this technology, workforce gaps, things of that nature?
There's all sorts of stuff at PACK EXPO, as it's a never-ending show. There's so many vendors there. One thing that's really good to do is get the exhibitor search tool. That's a good place to start. One pavilion that would make sense for the topic that we're discussing might be the logistics pavilion, because that's going to contain vendors for warehouse automation, things of that nature. But we don't necessarily have a pavilion specifically for this topic. It's all over the show. So I would really start with the exhibitor search function on the website. I would encourage just talk to your vendors and just learn about what they have to offer. Learn about their support tools. That's really important because that's a lot of what we're talking about. How can OEMs support these folks? And ask them about how AI is enhancing their platforms. What are they doing and how are they using it? And how are they using training? And then find out how sort of flexible they are in collaboration, because I think we're getting closer to where OEMs and end users are collaborating on these projects. I think it's really important. I've been with PMMI for almost 9 years. I've been hearing about collaboration and the importance of collaboration for the entire time. And it seems like we're getting there. And I understand you have a seller position and a buyer position, so there's a natural division there. But I think it's really important because I've heard really great success stories when it does happen.
From companies that do it, When
honestly,
you build a partnership, it always works out better.
Exactly. So find out how flexible these OEMs are to collaborate with you and build solutions and see what they're doing. Because if you can find somebody to align with you and what your needs are, it's only going to lead to success, honestly.
Absolutely. This was great. Thank you again, Rebecca, for taking time out of your day to come on here with us. It's always a pleasure.
Sure thing.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Unpacked with PMMI. If you liked what you heard, be sure to follow or subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. That way, you won't miss any of the industry insights coming your way. While you're there, we'd really appreciate a rating or review. Want more? Visit pmmi.org/podcasts for all of our past episodes and additional resources. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you next time.